Cape's Corner continued. We have talked about MCU and we have talked about Star Wars. Let's talk about one of the under-discussed movie IP that we have, and just overall, and TV series IP. Let's talk about Star Trek. And we've been waiting. Talk about like Star Wars fans waiting for another film. We've been waiting for a Star Trek for I don't know how long. Since what was the name of the Star Trek 3 with Chris Pine? Beyond?
Beyond, Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah, so Star Trek Beyond. So we are getting a new Star Trek movie. It's in the works with Toby Haynes. And we've also talked about his previous work on today's episode, who has done work on Andor, which is super exciting, more mature type of a galactic adventure here. He's set to direct. The movie is described as an origin story set decades before the '09 Star Trek film, starring Chris Pine, Carl Urban, who's our Spock there? Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, all the crew there. Do you like the idea of a new Star Trek film set decades before the '09 Star Wars movie? And as I say this, Ricky Flux, before I let you go here, this sounds like what Star Wars should be doing. This sounds like what they should be doing and what we're advocates for. It's like, let's go back in time. Let's go and see and feature new characters. Let's spice it up a little bit. We want to see the James Mangold movie. It seems like Star Trek is taking their play and Star Wars is like James Mangold play and putting it into action right now. So what do you think about this idea of new film, same universe, probably different actors?
Yeah, smart. Very smart. But I think off the top, you said it. This has been probably the quietest IP out there. Yeah. Nothing. Absolutely under the radar. Nothing from the Trekkies. Versus Star Wars, where I feel like there's news all the time, but it's just all about how in disarray they are. So I think here it's like, finally, we get something. And you know what? This is great news. This is great news for the Trekkies. A mature audience, like you said, with Toby Haynes and Andor. Love that. Obviously, I've talked about on the show how much of a fan I am of the Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto Star Trek trilogy, especially the first two movies. Benedict Cumberbatch, an unbelievable villain, and the second one, Into the Darkness, on the streaming Rex this past weekend. So I think awesome move for the Trekkies. I think the interesting, though, sub-storyline will be, so we're not doing Star Trek 4, which was news last summer. We covered on the checkup, saying that development that it was basically in development with the returning cast. Is. So you think it's still on? J.J. Abrams and the boys were getting back together for a Star Trek 4.
I think Star Trek's just making a move right now. They're just letting their presence be known. Hey, I think that rumored Star Trek 4 film, I think will still happen. I don't know if it's going to be featuring like the return of like Captain Kirk's dad with Chris Hemsworth. I don't know if that storyline's still going to happen because Chris Hemsworth, he's in a couple films this year, right? Or he's in at least to the Furiosa film. He said he wanted to take a break from acting. I know he has Extraction on the books and everything like that. So I don't know if that storyline is going to continue, but I think Star Trek's making a move here. And Ricky Flicks, I do want to say, if this if this prequel type of film is successful and Mando and Grogu is a pile of trash, I'm thinking about going to the dark side.
You would be a Trekkie.
I think because I'm a movie guy, Ricky Flicks.
Yes.
I want to see movies executed on the big screen. And I like what the first two Star Trek movies with Chris Pine did. I didn't like Star Trek Beyond. I didn't love Idris Elba as the villain. I don't like the way they handled him necessarily. But Star Trek 4, they can get those characters right, get that story right, long-awaited sequel. And then if this one's hitting, if they are able to create a successful Star Trek film that doesn't include Spock and Captain Kirk, I'm so in. It's the guy from Andor doing this movie, right? Talk of that mature vibe. Star Trek does have that mature vibe compared to Star Wars. And especially after Disney acquired Star Wars. Like, it's only going to go further and further deeper into that hole. And I think as I get older, I'm like, maybe the Star Trek has like the mature themes that we talk about too. And I think they're bold, they're daring. I like what they're doing here as opposed to Star Wars. I think I am officially on the border, depending on the success of each of these IP's respective films.
No, that's just shocking because I'm usually the guy that says like, oh, like movies, like TV shows are great. Obviously, prestige television has taken over the past 10 years, taken over. But I'm usually the movie stan here. So I love to hear it from you. And I think another thing that we have to mention here is that I think Star Trek has been so smart. Like, even though they've been quiet, which is not always good to be quiet, but they're also like, they're not dropping news of 2028 or something to TBD Taika Waititi movie, you know? Obviously, like we have like the Tarantino like cloud over our heads saying he wants to do a Star Trek movie, and obviously you kind of have to do that whenever he maybe one day wants to, which probably won't happen ever. But besides that, like Star Trek, they do their shows that are not canon, you know, and whatnot with Paramount. And besides that, like they stay under the radar and they only announce something when there's something in the works. And it's concrete, and I really appreciate that. And I think other IP, specifically related to Disney, need to learn from that.
I am more willing to join the Trekkies, I think, because remember that movie from a few years back, Fanboys?
Yeah. That was a good
And
movie.
they detail like Trekkies versus Star Wars fans. And like a lot of those people in that movie, they portrayed the Trekkies as very annoying people and as people that you don't want to hang out with. But I think over the years on social media, it's gone vice versa. It's the Star Wars fans you don't want to hang out with that are always like negative and critical and of the direction of the series, and like you can't satisfy those fans. I think it's kind of shifted where it's like the Trekkies are kind of a sleeping giant. Like once there is a successful Star Trek, like the Star like this, if this is successful, I think they're coming out of the woodworks, and I think
Mm.
they're coming out hard. And I think they want that they're waiting for a time where they can just absolutely rip on Star Wars fans. I feel like we are going to have with these two like announcements this week, Trek and Star Wars. I think we're going to have a rebirth of the rivalry that I think is going to reinvigorate like but the box office, which would be great, right? And I know there is a smaller audience for Star Trek, but they are loyal as hell. And I am open. I'm a free agent potentially, depending on the success of these two movies that we've talked about today. And just want to be known, I am on the fence, Ricky Flex.
All right, so Doctor O might be on the open market. My last comment on this would be back to Toby Haynes. And again, Andor, he's done a bunch of other stuff. But something that really interests me that he's done recently that connects with this, he did the Black Mirror episode, the USS Callister, with Jesse
Ooh,
Plemons, which
wow.
has the Star Trek vibe. So
He's
I
a
don't
fan.
know. He's a fan, like Star Trek pre Andor. Basically, I know it's not actually Star
Is he
Trek,
a
but that
traitor? Is he considered a traitor?
I
Like
think
going
he
from
might be a
Andor to
Trekkie.
Star Trek? Like how
Yeah,
how does Lucasfilm view Toby Haynes? Is he going to work on the next season of Andor?
yeah, that's already yeah. I think he's doing that too. No doubt. But like I don't know. He's gonna be a Trekkie, and I'm not sorry. He is a Trekkie, I think. And hey, who knows? Maybe a Jesse Plemons is like, hey, yeah, I liked working with you on Black Mirror. Maybe I'll come in and help you out on this origin story movie here. I don't know. So I don't know. I just thought it was a little interesting. So on the IMDb, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned for the box office for this movie. Like personally, I don't care. I'm gonna go see it, but like I'm thinking about like Lucasfilm is all in on the box office with Mando and Grogu. How successful is this movie for Star Trek going to be if it doesn't have the marquee characters? Does that even matter if you don't have James T. Kirk and Spock? Right? Are they that powerful of characters in 2023 where you need to include them, or is it something where it's hey, we can just like explore right with different crews and we go to different planets and tell relevant stories. I think that I just don't think Captain Kirk and Spock hold much cultural power in 2023. I just want in Star Trek Beyond. Do you have like the box office numbers for that movie?
Yeah. So Star Trek, the 2009, made 386 million. Um, I'm looking up the other ones. 2011. Oh God, it made a little less, and then Beyond was less than 200 million. So,
Wow.
um, not good from Beyond. But again, like I think Beyond that was just such a weird spot. That was a weird spot if you think about it. I think the first one, obviously 2009, that was a new birth of the IP, and then the Benedict Cumberbatch follow up to that also did well. Beyond just like kind of like it was like 4 years or 5 years afterwards, it kind of like got lost in the mix and it just came out of nowhere. And obviously, still critically like not terrible, but I think fans and everyone else like us like didn't like it. So again, box office was always going to flounder, but under 200 million, not good.
Are you more excited for the potential Star Trek 4 or this movie?
Um, this movie, sadly, even though
Star
I
Trek
love
4
Chris
has that
Pine,
star appeal, dude. Yeah.
I
We'll,
love
we'll
Chris
see.
Pine.
We'll see who gets cast in the new one, though. It could have an even more exciting cast.
Like Chris Hemsworth, like his talks where Chris Hemsworth's like, as in Chris Pine's dad, Captain Kirk's dad, like he's gonna be back, and somehow it's like a multi-time period movie, which would be very interesting from a fan standpoint of the franchise. But again, creativity wins out for me. Something new, fresh, refreshing. I think that is what Star Trek here with Toby Haynes could do, which Star Wars should be doing.
Yeah, put some cucumber in that water, right? Let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. Let's get a new cast. Let's spice it up a little bit. Refreshing, like you said, Ricky Flicks.